Hey Giants fans, welcome back to Giants Latest. Happy Friday. We are only 48 hours away from the Giants taking on the Broncos, but there have been some news and reports about the wide receivers, so we're going to talk about that. Players to watch on Sunday's game, what I think the game plan needs to be in order for the Giants to win, and then my final prediction on the game, so let's get to it. Starting with the wide receivers. So there's obviously been a lot of discourse about this, and the Giants went ahead and freed up about $4.8 million in cap space by updating a couple players' deals. Now, they did not touch Dexter Lawrence or Andrew Thomas's, and I think the reason for Dexter Lawrence is that they're probably going to have to pay him a lot more money and redo his contract at some point, and now they're like, we're not going to do that right now. So anyway, they did that with the Debo's and someone else's contract. I forget who it is now. But so anyway, with that being said, they have about $4.8 million in cap space right now. Now, the names that are being thrown around are quite a few. I have seen Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave, Jacoby Myers, and then I also saw a report that the Giants have called the Packers in relation to three different players: Romeo Dobbs, Dontavius Wick, and Christian Watson. So obviously there's a lot of names floating out there. Here's the reality. It's Friday now before the Giants game, and they're not going to make any changes before then. So I think their plan is that they freed up space and they're making calls to see what these different organizations and GMs are looking for in return for specific players. I think they have a list of who they're interested in. But I think it will depend on how Sunday goes. They also have plenty of time until the trade deadline. It's not until November, so they do have time to figure this out. There's no rush. Obviously, bringing in someone sooner rather than later is beneficial to everyone involved, especially the Giants and Jackson Dart. But, you know, if they lose to the Broncos and they go 2-5, are you really giving up a second-round pick for Jalen Waddle? I'm not so sure. So the Broncos game, I think, is going to be very telling for this organization on what they're going to do moving forward. But it sounds like the talks are starting to heat up a little bit and that the Giants have absolutely been calling around. So it could mean something, it could be nothing, but I will keep you guys posted if anything changes. I'll try to do an emergency episode with all the details on that. So stay tuned for more. In the meantime, because we don't have a solid answer on that, let's talk about the Broncos game because we know that that's coming up pretty soon. So there are a couple players that I want to talk about that I think are going to be exciting to watch on Sunday. Number one is Lil Jordan Humphrey. So the Giants haven't elevated him just yet, but they did it last week. He obviously helps this team win the football game. He made some great contested catches, great plays and catches on third down to convert it. So, and he's a great target for Jackson Dart. So I expect that he's going to be elevated. And something that some of you may not know is that he used to play for the Broncos. So this is what I'm calling the Lil Jordan Humphrey revenge game. And look, at the end of the day, it's not that serious. We can joke and also say it's an Evan Ingram revenge game because remember when he was on the Giants? But I think we also played the Jags when Evan Ingram was on the Jags. So he might have already had that situation for us. So anyway, but I think it's always an opportunity for these players. Like at the end of the day, they are all very competitive and they want to go out there and they want to prove that they're the best. And Jackson Dart talked a lot about this in his press conference, is that they are trying to set a standard here that winning is the standard and anything less than that is unacceptable. And they don't get too high when they win and they don't get too low when they lose. So, you know, I think it's a perfect opportunity for someone like Lil Jordan Humphrey to show off what he's got. So I'm excited to watch him. The second player is, of course, Jackson Dart. And, you know, something that came to my attention that I think is going to take this to an extra level for Jackson Dart is this, that there were a couple different players from the Broncos who spoke to the media, right, this week. And Patrick Surtain said he has a lot of respect for Jackson Dart and what he's seen so far. So he takes this type of approach, right? And then you've got the Broncos outside linebacker Jonathan Cooper, who does not seem impressed by Jackson Dart. This is a direct quote. He's a young guy. He's feeling himself a little bit. He's out there running around. He's got the chain on. He's dancing. I feel like everybody needs something, you know? And then he goes on to also say that we've went against quarterbacks who have ran around in the pocket and who've tried to do stuff with their legs. So ain't nothing we haven't seen. If I am Jackson Dart, I am walking onto that field on Sunday and I am going to make sure my chain is out and say, watch me, little bro. You can't get to me. So please, offensive line, back up Jackson Dart. But this is going to be a really tough game for Jackson Dart, and he's done an excellent job progressing much faster than I and I think many others expected that he would do so far. And he does give a lot of credit to the offensive line. He says, they are giving me time to get through my reads and make decisions back there. So I think that's really important. But this is the first time that he's going to be blitzed a lot. And I want to see him be able to remain the calm, cool, collected player that he is back there in the pocket, like we've seen him do. See him do that and continue to make smart decisions with the ball. That's the number one thing. And he was very good under pressure in college, and he has been good under pressure in the NFL so far, but he also has not been blitzed to the degree that Van Joseph and this Broncos defense is going to blitz at with him. And it's not just going to be the outside or the inside linebackers that are coming his way. It's going to be the linebackers, the middle linebackers. It's going to be the corners and the safeties. This guy has no mercy. And I think I said this yesterday. I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but he's at the top of my list of Giants defensive coordinators that I want this offseason. Him and Wink Martindale would just have an absolute feast with this defensive line. So Shane Bowen, take notes, but I think this is going to be a really tough challenge for Jackson Dart, and I think he's very capable of stepping up and accepting the challenge and willing to say, bring it on, I got this. And I just hope that little extra motivation from Cooper kind of takes it to the next level for him. For those of you who don't know, too, the necklace that Jackson Dart wears is his sister's. He took it from her and she ended up letting him keep it, but he wears it every day. His family's on the West Coast and they seem like a very tight-knit group. I don't know them, but they're from Utah and they seem very close. His parents are at all the games. So, I think it's just kind of a reminder for him, like, keep my family close, my sister's with me. So for also Cooper to go out of this way and be like, he's wearing a chain. Shut up, bro. Jackson Dart, please run all over him. This is the number one thing I want to see from Jackson Dart on Sunday. Stiff arm the hell out of Cooper. With your left arm, not your throwing arm, please. Just stiff arm him, please. Would love nothing more. Anyway, let's talk about the defensive players to watch. So obviously the edge rushers have been super fun to watch as a whole, but I want to talk about Dexter Lawrence because he's having a slower start to the season than I think any one of us expected, especially knowing that he's got 3 edge rushers and even Nacho, who's played quite well over the last few weeks. So I think this is a really big opportunity for Dexter Lawrence to prove that he's back, right? I know he has a newborn. He's probably very tired. He's also coming off this elbow injury, but he's not playing to the level that we are so used to seeing in the last couple years of Dexter Lawrence. And I don't know what the reason is, but this is the week, and I really want to see him step up. They're going to get the ball out very, very quick, and they're going to try and do that so that Bo Nix is not going to get sacked every play between Lawrence, Burns, Carter, and Thibodeau. So, but I really want to see that extra level of play from Dexter this week. I want to see it show up in the games, and I feel like we haven't seen that yet, and I think this is the perfect opportunity for it to shine. And one thing that I've talked about over the last couple weeks or so is that Brian Burns is able to have as many sacks as he has because he's being helped out by guys like Thibodeau, who's playing amazing football, and same thing with Abdul Carter. So Abdul Carter is getting pressure on the quarterback that's freeing up Brian Burns to make that sack. So I want to see that happen, but I want it to be with Dexter Lawrence this week. And then the last player to watch along the similar lines of that is Nacho, because Nacho missed the first few weeks of the season and he's finally back and he has immediately made an impact. He came back against the Saints and then I think he's really finally feeling back to himself against the Eagles. He was immediate difference in the way that the Giants were able to stop the run. Between Saquon and Jalen Hurts, who are known for running all over other teams, we know this, right? Having to play them twice a year. The fact that they were able to slow them down, Saquon Barkley had 58 rushing yards, which it was as many as Jackson Dart had. So Nacho is making a really big impact against the run for this football team, and I'm excited to watch him this week because they are absolutely going to try to run the ball on us, and we need someone like Nacho and Dexter Lawrence, who's also good against the run. Those two guys have to step up. With that being said, this is, I think, the way that the Giants win this game. Now, I don't exactly know how many players they have on the 53-man roster right now because they haven't moved anyone to IR. And as of last week, I think they finally had all 53. I do believe they're going to elevate little Jordan Humphrey. I think if they don't do that, it's close to being a fireable offense because it looks like Darius Slayton is not going to play. And then the second thing is I would really like to see them elevate Turbo. I think if there's any week where you're focused so specifically on the game plan for that opponent, this is the week to bring in Turbo. This Broncos defense is really good against the run, and Cam Scatterbo alone is not going to be able to hold this team to take the run game and put it on his back. And we all know that he's a great runner, and we know that Dart is a great runner, but we have to be able to open up as many lanes as we can. And with Austin Schlottman possibly playing center with JMS out, now he stepped in and did a great job, but the reality is that there could be a little bit of concern there with a new-ish offensive line. So they really have to do their job on their side of things. But Turbo is the fastest player on this football team. That alone should be enough of a reason for them to say, we're going to do end arounds, we're going to use the screen game, we're going to do bubble screens, we're going to do slants. Like, this is where you get the ball out quick and you get it in your playmaker's hands. And when you don't have Malik Neighbors and you probably don't have Darius Slayton and you're relying on a 5'7" Wan'Dale Robinson in the slot, you have to do everything that you can to help out your young quarterback. So I am elevating Turbo. And I'm using him in every way, shape, and form, like I just said. Utilize his speed, get the ball out quick. Now, Dart has been lucky. He's had time behind this offensive line to sit back and think. He's not going to have that this week. So they have to get the ball out as quick as they can, get it to the first read, make the reads simple, make sure that the communication is good and everyone is on the same page. Now, even though Denver is a hard place to play, it's not as loud as the Superdome as the Saints. So I'm hoping there's going to be less communication issues, but I think they're going to run that quick style offense, and that's going to be good for Dart. It's going to be good for this team to move the ball quickly and be able to get the ball out fast. So from an offensive perspective, get the ball out fast, get the ball in your playmaker's hands, and utilize the speedsters. That even means Jalen Hyatt, okay? If you want to do an end around to Jalen Hyatt, if you want to do a little shovel pass, like, just get the ball in their hands and get it out quickly. So that's how I would utilize those guys this week. I don't think you're going to have so much time to see a lot of deep balls. This is probably not the week for that. So that's what I would do on offense. The defensive plan would be this. Bo Nix is also, their plan is going to be to get the ball out quickly. It's what Sean Payton has done a lot of, and I expect them to continue to do that this week. Now, the one thing that I've seen a lot of complaints with from Broncos fans this week is they feel like Sean Payton got a little cutesy last week and was like trying to do a little too much. Now, I don't know if he's going to do that again this week. I hope that he does, because if you watch the Broncos versus Jets game, you saw that, and it didn't necessarily work in their favor. So, but Sean Payton is a damn good coach, so it wouldn't surprise me if he goes ahead and gets back to, his bread and butter, what he's good at. But they're going to focus on the quick game. So guys like the interior defensive line and the linebackers, it's going to be a really important game for them this week. Guys like Tyler Nubin and Bobby Okereke and Darius Muasau, you three have to be on it this week. You got to tackle well. You got to be communicative, because we've seen some issues where Tyler Nubin has either taken a bad angle or he's been in the wrong place at the wrong time. You can't have stuff like this. Also, it's week 7. Like, they have gotten better at that, and I think Nubin has definitely improved with it. This is not the week to have those types of issues again. You have to play clean and smart football. And the last thing as a whole is, for the love of God, rein in the penalties, especially in the red zone. You can't have the false starts and you can't have the DPIs. I don't want to see Tay Banks on the goddamn field. I don't care that Dable said on Monday. I hope this was him trying to trick the media or whatever, that, they do a game-to-game plan, and just because we saw more Cordell Flott last week doesn't mean we're going to see him more this week. That better be some straight BS from Dable, because I don't want to see Tay Banks anywhere near the field this week. It's Cordell Flott's show. He's earned it. He deserves the reps. And he's been very beneficial to this team. We cannot afford a Tay Banks DPI call this game. This is, it's unacceptable. So I don't want to see him this week. So with all of that being said, this is going to be my final prediction for the Giants versus Broncos. I think the Giants are going to do enough to keep it close. I think they're a capable football team. I think what we have seen over the last couple weeks, the team that we saw that was able to move the ball against the Saints, they just made boneheaded mistakes. The team that went out there and beat the Chargers, the team that went out there and whooped some Eagles' butt, that is who I think this Giants football team is. I think the Broncos are going to be their biggest challenge yet from a coaching and scheme perspective. And the biggest thing that I'm worried about is them shutting down the run game. If they do that, we're not winning this game. So I think that's a big concern to be had. I ultimately think it can be a 24-20 type of game. And all week I was so optimistic that I think the Giants can win it. And I did a podcast with a Broncos host, and the more I'm seeing and reading about the Broncos, I'm more worried about them now than I was after watching them against the Jets, because they also got Dre Greenlaw back, and I hope he's on a pitch count. But I'm a little worried about it, and I think that the Giants, like I said, can keep it close. But I don't know if they're going to be able to do it against the Broncos. So I'm taking the Broncos here. I want to be wrong so badly. Prove me wrong, Giants. But they have not won back-to-back games since 2023. They are 0 for 3 on the road this year. And they are playing a much more talented Broncos team out in Denver than they played with the Saints in New Orleans. So until they win 2 in a row, I just can't pick the Giants yet, and I hope I'm wrong. Let me know your predictions in the comments, and I'll be back on Monday with a game recap, and hopefully we're talking about a win.